So at the end of the session, I'll have a little bit of Q&A, starting with the questions that were submitted during the registration process, and then some frequently asked questions as well. And then after we conclude today, we'll send you a link to the webinar recording, so you can feel free to share it with others within your organization. And then lastly, today's session qualifies for continuing education credit through Earmark. So I'll explain how to claim your CE credit at the end of the presentation. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So my name is Taylor Gorel, and I am a manager of customer success. I work with nonprofits nationwide to keep them compliant with state charitable solicitation registration and reporting requirements. And I have previously worked for years in the nonprofit sector. Labyrinth and Harbor Compliance support nonprofits by providing comprehensive compliance solutions, including nationwide charitable registration and reporting. On your screen, you'll see a few of the many wonderful nonprofit organizations that we have helped keep compliant. Let's begin by looking at the topics that I'll cover in today's webinar. Today, I will discuss the following: state charitable registration requirements, online fundraising activities and how they trigger registration requirements, why fundraising compliance should be a priority, what it takes to register to fundraise and how much it costs, and how to manage state fundraising registrations and simplify the process. The presentation will be about 35 to 40 minutes, followed by a 5 to 10-minute question and answer period. All right, I want to start by going over a few key terms to ensure that we're all on the same page. At its core, compliance simply means following the rules. Charitable registration compliance refers to following the laws and regulations that govern charitable solicitation registration. So, what is charitable solicitation? It's just another way of saying fundraising or asking for donations for a charitable purpose. While the IRS oversees nonprofit status, fundraising is actually regulated at the state level. A total of 40 jurisdictions, including Washington, D.C., require charities to register before they can start soliciting donations within their borders. These rules exist to protect donors, safeguard legitimate charities, and maintain the nonprofit sector's reputation and special status. Charitable registration and reporting rules focus on the act of asking for donations, not receiving them. So that's very important for you to understand. This means that soliciting donations is what triggers the requirement to register, not simply accepting funds. I'll dive deeper into that distinction in just a moment. This map highlights the states that require charitable registration. It's a useful resource, so you may want to bookmark it for quick reference in the future. Here's how to read the map. The 40 navy blue and dark blue states require charities to register before soliciting contributions. The difference is that the dark blue states only require registration before solicitation. The navy blue states require both registration and the inclusion of charitable disclosure statements in fundraising materials and donor communications. The two light blue states don't require registration, but do require disclosure statements in solicitations. And the states in gray don't require registration or disclosure statements. I'm going to launch a quick poll to understand, for those of you attending today, how many states your organization might currently be registered to solicit. Yeah, leave it up for a few more seconds here, and then I'll share the results. Okay, looks like most participants are reporting they're registered in about 1 to 5 states or 15 plus states. All right, thank you for that. Let's see. All right, so we talked about, or I just mentioned the charitable disclosure statements. I will discuss those a little later in the presentation, but first I want to dive into charitable registration. So many nonprofits wonder whether charitable registration and reporting requirements apply to them, and if so, in which states? The short answer is that if a charity is fundraising, it likely needs to register and report in at least a few states. Why? Because as I just covered, registration is triggered by the act of soliciting donations, not whether donations are actually received. So let's take a closer look at regulated solicitation. Simply put, solicitation means fundraising or asking for donations. And this can happen in many ways, but some of the most common traditional methods include mailing letters to potential donors, making fundraising phone calls, or hosting fundraising events. We'll explore these and other forms of solicitation in more detail next. States regulate many types of fundraising activities, not just traditional methods like mailings and phone calls. Other solicitation methods that may require registration include applying for grants, collecting membership dues, or accepting donations through a charity's website. Other activities that often require fundraising registration and reporting include hiring fundraising counsel or professional fundraisers, or engaging in cause marketing campaigns, also known as commercial co-ventures or CCVs. For-profit companies, such as professional fundraisers and CCVs, must also register and submit reports in certain states. So those entities also need to be registered. Since most nonprofits use multiple fundraising methods and often solicit in more than one state, it's important to carefully review your organization's activities. If you're soliciting donations in any of the 40 states with registration requirements, your nonprofit may need to register in one or more of them. Now let's talk about another type of fundraising that often requires charitable registration: online fundraising. This is one of the most common topics we get questions about. Most charities fundraise online in some way. For example, many nonprofits will accept donations on their website through a Donate Now button. They'll send fundraising emails or include donation requests in email newsletters. Charity might also use social media to ask for donations or offer a text to donate or text to give option. These methods help nonprofits expand their reach and connect with supporters across the country. However, because online solicitations can easily reach donors in all 50 states, they raise important compliance questions. 8 states have specific laws governing online fundraising. The rest have fundraising laws that were written before the internet became a major part of nonprofit fundraising. As online fundraising became more common, states needed clearer guidelines. So in 2001, the National Association of State Charity Officials, or NASCO, met in Charleston, South Carolina, and created a framework called the Charleston Principles. These guidelines suggest that a nonprofit should register in a state if it targets residents of that state with email solicitations, or if it receives ongoing, repeated, or substantial donations from that state. However, the Charleston Principles don't define what qualifies as ongoing, repeated, or substantial donations. Plus, not all states have adopted them into law. This means that while they provide a helpful framework, they do not establish definitive registration requirements. Since online fundraising can reach donors in every state, it's often considered a form of nationwide solicitation. If a nonprofit receives donations from out-of-state donors and then follows up, whether by email, mail, or phone, it is actively soliciting in that state. A common question we hear is, what if we receive an unsolicited donation? Does that trigger a registration requirement? While it's possible to receive a donation without asking for it, nonprofits typically engage with donors to encourage repeat giving. California, for example, requires nonprofits to register within 30 days of receiving funds, whether the donation was solicited or not. Ultimately, if your nonprofit fundraises online, it's important to understand the state laws that apply and determine where registration may be required. Now, nonprofits have two main approaches to ensuring compliance when they fundraise online. The most comprehensive approach is to register or apply for exemptions in all 40 states that require charitable registration. For many organizations, this is the best option because it allows them to fundraise nationwide using any method, including online. It avoids penalties, fines, or other risks associated with unregistered fundraising. And it allows a nonprofit to invest in long-term compliance as part of their capacity building efforts. This approach provides maximum flexibility for fundraising while ensuring the organization is meeting all state requirements. The second, more selective approach is to register only where necessary. Not every nonprofit has the budget or resources to register in all 40 states. This is especially true for small or newly formed organizations. In this case, a nonprofit can register only in the states where it regularly fundraises. The nonprofit must then avoid solicitation activities in states where registration would be required. The nonprofit should also consider using specific language on its website and fundraising materials to exclude certain states from donation eligibility. This approach requires careful monitoring of fundraising activities to ensure the nonprofit does not unintentionally trigger registration requirements in additional states. Ultimately, each organization must weigh the cost of registering in a state against the opportunity cost of not accepting donations there. Nonprofits should aim to register where required rather than risk noncompliance, as state charity regulators actively enforce fundraising laws. Now that you understand when fundraising registration is required, let's go over how to determine where your nonprofit may need to register. Step one is to identify where you solicit donations. You'll want to start by listing the states where your nonprofit currently solicits donations, whether through mail, email, events, online campaigns, or any other method. Then compare that list against the 40 states that regulate fundraising. Your nonprofit will generally need to either register or apply for an exemption in these states. Since fundraising activities and state requirements can change over time, it's important to review this annually or semi-annually, especially before launching a major campaign, event, or a fundraising initiative. Step two is to check for possible exemptions. Some nonprofits may qualify for state fundraising registration exemptions based on their type of organization. For example, certain schools, hospitals, or houses of worship may be exempt. Another criteria is if a charity's solicitation methods or their total annual revenue, for example, some states exempt small nonprofits that earn under $10,000 or $15,000, depending on the state. However, it's important to note that not every state offers the same exemptions, so it's important to check each state's laws carefully to see if your nonprofit qualifies. Step three is to understand that exemptions may need to be applied for and renewed. Most exemptions are not automatic. Your nonprofit must apply for them and, in many cases, renew them periodically. Additionally, if your organization experiences changes in mission, program, structure, or revenue, you may no longer qualify for an exemption and need to register in states where you were previously exempt. Ensuring compliance in every regulating state requires careful research into each state's registration and exemption requirements. A great first step is to educate your leadership team on state charitable registration rules and the fundraising activities that trigger them. This knowledge will help your nonprofit stay compliant and avoid unnecessary risks. I'm going to launch one more quick poll regarding who currently manages your charitable registrations. Looks like most participants are reporting that they have an in-house employee that manages their registrations or perhaps a third party. Okay, I'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results. It's pretty typical. All right, thank you for that. So ensuring fundraising compliance is essential for any nonprofit. Your organization will likely need to register in at least a few states, and possibly in all 40 states that regulate charitable solicitation. This can be a significant process, but it's a necessary step to stay compliant. Charitable registration laws have been in place for many years, but states are now enforcing them more strictly. The reason? To protect donors and ensure their contributions go to legitimate causes, to safeguard the reputation of compliant nonprofits, and to uphold trust in the nonprofit sector as a whole. By prioritizing compliance, your nonprofit helps maintain transparency, trust, and credibility, ensuring that you can continue fundraising effectively while avoiding potential penalties or restrictions. If your nonprofit has been out of compliance in a state for some time, it's not too late to fix it. By proactively registering in the states that require it, your organization can avoid risks such as penalties, investigations, or additional scrutiny from state authorities. Taking action now is the best way to ensure compliance moving forward. A former Pennsylvania director of the Bureau of Charitable Organizations once shared this advice with nonprofits. Quote, "If you were coming in voluntarily, even if you had been violating the law for 10 or 15 years, you always got a pass. The bottom line is you want to try to register voluntarily." End quote. Regulators encourage legitimate nonprofits to follow the rules and maintain proper fundraising compliance. Their goal is not to punish organizations that are making an effort to do the right thing, even if they are late in registering. In our experience, states typically resolve misregistrations through informal resolutions or settlements, rather than issuing fines, penalties, or legal action. By voluntarily registering, your nonprofit can demonstrate good faith and avoid unnecessary complications down the road. Nonprofits must be compliant in every state where they fundraise. If your organization raises money nationwide, that typically means registering in all 40 states that require charitable registration. While this may take time and effort, the benefits are significant. It gives your nonprofit the ability to fundraise without restrictions and opens up more opportunities for support. Fundraising registration is not optional, it's the law. Your nonprofit should approach it with the same level of importance as filing your IRS Form 990 or conducting financial reviews or audits. Registration and renewal should be part of your annual priorities, and the associated costs should be built into your budget. Many states maintain online databases listing charities and their fundraising registration status. These records are publicly accessible to donors, grant makers, sponsors, corporate partners, and state regulators. In fact, 92% of state regulators say that they regularly research nonprofits online. This means your nonprofit's compliance status is always visible. So staying registered is essential for maintaining trust and credibility. Beyond avoiding penalties, registration can actually help increase donations. Studies show that charities that register and actively promote their compliance status see higher returns on fundraising requests. Why? Because donors want to support organizations that follow the law and operate transparently. When supporters see that your nonprofit is properly registered, they feel more confident in giving, leading to stronger donor relationships and increased funding. Maintaining legal compliance isn't just about following the law, it's also a best practice for nonprofits. In fact, it's a key principle of the Nonprofit Standards for Excellence Code of Ethics and Accountability. Ensuring fundraising and licensing compliance is essential for running a lawful and responsible nonprofit, for protecting your organization's reputation and special tax-exempt status, and for upholding the credibility of the entire nonprofit sector. The first step toward achieving compliance is sharing what you've learned with your executive leadership and board of directors. Your leadership team is committed to protecting your nonprofit's reputation and long-term success, but many board members are not fully aware of state fundraising registration requirements, the risks of noncompliance, or the benefits of investing in compliance. Now that you understand these important details, take the lead in starting the conversation. Encourage your team to educate themselves on compliance and advocate for making it a priority within your organization. By doing so, you'll help ensure your nonprofit remains in good standing and positioned for future success. Registering to fundraise involves different requirements in each state, but overall, the process can be broken down into 4 key phases: research, apply, monitor, and renew. Step 1 is to research your registration status. Before filing anything, it's crucial to research your nonprofit's current fundraising registration status in each state. Your nonprofit may fall into one of 3 categories: not yet registered in the state, currently in compliance, or in bad standing due to a past registration that wasn't properly maintained. Once you determine where your nonprofit needs to register, you'll need to submit an application, which typically includes a state registration fee, usually based on annual revenue reported on your Form 990. You'll also need to include supplemental documents, such as your most recently filed Form 990, your financial statements or audit, your formation documents, such as your articles of incorporation and your bylaws, and your IRS nonprofit determination letter. Understanding these requirements ahead of time ensures a smoother registration process and helps your nonprofit stay compliant. Next, I'll discuss the application phase. Before registering to fundraise, some states require nonprofits to complete additional corporate registration steps. These prerequisites vary by state, but commonly include appointing a registered agent. So some states require nonprofits to designate a registered agent who must be located within the state and is responsible for receiving legal documents and service of process on behalf of the organization. You may also be required to foreign qualify. So in several states, your nonprofit may need to register as an out-of-state or foreign nonprofit corporation with the Secretary of State before applying for charitable registration. Completing these prerequisites ahead of time helps prevent delays or rejections in the fundraising registration process. By ensuring your nonprofit meets all requirements before applying, you'll avoid unnecessary complications and keep your compliance efforts on track. Once you've researched each state's requirements, it's time to submit your applications. For each state where your nonprofit needs to register, you must accurately complete an individual application. You'll need to compile the required supporting documents specific to that state. And then you'll need to submit the application, either through an online portal or by email or on paper, depending on that state's particular requirements. While online filing offers some convenience, it also means navigating multiple state-specific portals, each with its own system and process, often requiring a significant time investment. Some of you may have heard of the Unified Registration Statement, or URS, which was designed to simplify the registration process across multiple states. However, there are important limitations to using the URS, mainly that not all states accept it, or states require additional supplements to be filed alongside it. The URS itself is often longer and more complex than standard state forms, and state regulators tend to prefer their own forms, which can lead to longer processing times when using the URS. For these reasons, many nonprofits find it more efficient to complete individual state applications rather than relying on the URS. After submitting your state registration applications, the next step is to monitor their status and confirm when they are approved. Some states process applications in just a few weeks, while others take several months. During this time, your organization should track the receipt and progress of each application. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon for states to reject applications due to missing information or errors. If this happens, you must resubmit the corrected application as soon as possible, and then stay in communication with state regulators until you receive official approval. The timeline from submission to approval can range from 1 day to 6 months, depending on the state. However, by submitting complete and accurate applications and proactively managing the process, you can help minimize delays. Fundraising registration is a complex and time-consuming process. If your organization hasn't gone through it before, you can expect to have monthly or even weekly tasks dedicated to applying, tracking, and following up on registrations. Proper planning and oversight will ensure your nonprofit stays compliant and avoids unnecessary delays. One of the most common questions nonprofits have for us is, how much does it cost to register? The answer depends on several factors, including your organization's annual revenue and the number of states in which you want to register. For most nonprofits, the total annual state fees for registering in all 40 states range from $1,500 to $5,000 per year. This is not a per state cost, it's the combined total of all state fees. Here's a general breakdown. Small nonprofits that report under $100,000 in annual revenue on Form 990 will pay fees at the lower end of that range. Large nonprofits that report over $10 million in annual revenue will pay fees at the higher end of the range. Most other nonprofits will fall somewhere in between. While costs vary by state and organization size, understanding this range can help your nonprofit plan and budget for fundraising compliance. Registering to fundraise is not a one-time process. States require annual renewals to maintain compliance. Most states require annual renewals. Washington, D.C. and Georgia renew biennially or every 2 years. Keeping up with renewal deadlines is essential. Most states base their renewal due date on either the end of the nonprofit's tax year or the organization's original registration date with that state. Since renewal applications often require Form 990 and financial statements, it's crucial to complete these documents on time. Many states require financials to be independently reviewed or audited, depending on the nonprofit's revenue. If your organization does not currently receive an annual audit, proper planning is even more important to avoid delays. Each year, nonprofits should collaborate with their tax preparers and auditors to determine what type of financial statements are required for registration renewal and the deadline for completion to stay in good standing. While some states allow extensions for renewals, others do not, making timely filing a priority. Failing to renew on time can lead to late fees that can add up quickly. damage to your nonprofit's reputation, or the loss of the ability to solicit donations in certain states altogether. Just like with initial registration, taking a proactive and strategic approach ensures that your nonprofit stays compliant and avoids unnecessary penalties. In addition to fundraising registration, many states require nonprofits to include charitable disclosure statements in their solicitation materials and donor correspondence. 25 states require nonprofits to include specific language in fundraising materials. These statements are different from IRS disclosure requirements, meaning nonprofits must comply with both state and federal regulations. State-mandated disclosures inform donors where they can find more details about a nonprofit's leadership, finances, and activities. State disclosure statements must typically be included in all fundraising communications sent to residents of a regulated state. These communications include appeal letters, email fundraising asks, website donation pages, pledge reminders, and donor receipt letters. State disclosure rules frequently change, so nonprofits must regularly review and update their solicitation materials to remain compliant. Regulators often check nonprofit websites during their review of fundraising registration applications and renewals, making compliance essential. Beyond being a legal requirement, including disclosure statements can actually boost donor confidence. Research shows that donors respond more favorably to fundraising requests that include transparency statements. By following disclosure laws, your nonprofit demonstrates credibility, good governance, and a commitment to transparency, all of which help build trust and increase donations. To wrap up, let's talk about how your nonprofit can streamline and manage the fundraising registration and renewal process effectively. Just like initial registrations, renewals require completing state-specific applications, calculating and paying the correct fees, and gathering required supporting documents, such as Form 990, financial statements, which may need to be reviewed or audited depending on your nonprofit size and state requirements. The biggest difference between initial and renewal filings is that renewals have set deadlines that apply to all registered nonprofits. So tracking these due dates is essential to avoid late fees and penalties. Nonprofits must have a reliable system to track each state's renewal deadlines, license numbers and fees, and any changing charitable registration requirements. Many organizations start with spreadsheets and calendar reminders, but these manual systems often fail because they require constant updates. Changes in state requirements or deadlines can also be easily missed, leading to unintentional noncompliance. State laws and administrative procedures also frequently change, affecting reporting requirements, disclosure statement language, renewal due dates and fees, registration forms and online filing portals, and even accepted signature formats. Leadership changes at state registration offices can also bring unexpected updates to the process, making ongoing monitoring essential for staying compliant. By using structured tracking systems and staying informed about state-level changes, your nonprofit can simplify the fundraising, registration, and renewal process, ensuring compliance and avoiding unnecessary risks. We've covered the complexities of state charitable registration and renewals, as well as why prioritizing fundraising compliance is essential for your nonprofit. If your nonprofit needs to register in multiple states, you might be feeling overwhelmed by the complexity of managing registrations and renewals, the ongoing time commitment required from staff, and the risk of missing deadlines or state requirements. That's where Labyrinthine can help. We offer a fully managed compliance solution, handling every step of the process so your team can stay focused on your mission. Our services include researching state requirements and handling prerequisites, preparing applications and compiling all required documents, cutting checks for state fees and submitting registrations, following up with states to track approvals, and managing extensions and renewals to keep your nonprofit compliant. We take care of everything so you don't have to. Our compliance services are offered at a flat rate per state with annual billing. No hourly fees, no surprises. If you're interested in learning more, we'd love to help. Schedule a time to speak with us. There's no obligation, and we'll provide a customized plan for your organization's path to compliance. Small teams with big missions often lack the resources to tackle regulatory filings on their own. That's where we come in. Our local nonprofit essentials is a complete package that includes everything you need. Created especially for nonprofits operating in 1 to 5 states, Local Essentials is an affordable solution designed to be your compliance easy button. It has everything you need to put your government filings on autopilot, including charitable registration filing preparation, submission, and tracking, registered agent service to ensure you reliably receive legal documents and government notices, annual report filings to keep your nonprofit's corporate registration in good standing, foreign qualification to create new corporate registrations in states where it's a prerequisite for charitable registration, our dynamic disclosure software that automatically displays the correct disclosure language next to your online solicitations, and access to 990 tax prep services at a reduced rate provided by TaxFile. And for organizations operating in 6+ states, Compliance Pro is the simplest way to achieve compliance nationwide. Just like Local Essentials, Compliance Pro delivers all the core services you need, plus personalized onboarding and priority support delivered by our experts. In addition to our managed compliance services, we offer software to help track your state-by-state compliance details. It keeps you informed about the status of your registrations in each state, state fees to assist with budgeting, and renewal deadlines to help you stay on schedule. The software allows for multiple users with different permission levels, so key stakeholders such as leadership, board members, accountants, attorneys, and consultants can all have real-time visibility into your compliance status. By using our software alongside our full-service compliance management, your organization gains a clear, organized system to track registrations and plan ahead with confidence. Keeping up with charitable disclosure requirements can be challenging, but our disclosure tool makes it easy to stay compliant. Our disclosure tool generates accurate disclosure statements for your website and printed solicitations. It updates dynamically in real time whenever state requirements or your registration data change, and it creates alerts for any registration issues that may impact your disclosures. With this tool, your organization can ensure compliance effortlessly while keeping your fundraising materials up to date, without the hassle of manually tracking disclosure changes. We offer referral and affiliate partnership opportunities designed to support professionals like accountants and attorneys. We can help you serve your clients with our nationwide registered agent services. We can assist your clients no matter where they're located. We provide support for both for-profit and nonprofit clients. Our expertise spans all industries. We also offer industry and occupational licensing. We handle licensing across all sectors, including nonprofit. We frequently partner with firms and organizations to create co-branded educational content that benefits both your clients and the industry. You can explore our curated educational resources on labyrinthinc.com's resource page or the Harbor Compliance Information Center. If you'd like to learn more about our partnership program, we'd love to connect. Reach out anytime. If you have compliance questions or would like to explore your nonprofit's path to compliance, please feel free to contact us to schedule a pathway call. And as mentioned at the start of this session, today's webinar is eligible for continuing education credit through Earmark. Scan the QR code on your screen to download the Earmark app. After the session, we'll email you a 5-question quiz. Once completed, you'll receive your CPE certificate. All right, I'm going to do a little bit of question and answer period now. I'm going to start with some frequently asked questions and then some of the questions that were submitted during the registration process. So the first question is, do organizations need corporate registration before fundraising in a state? And the answer to that is yes. Charitable registration and corporate registration, or foreign qualification, are 2 separate requirements. So not every state requires the foreign qualification in addition to the charity registration, but several do. Charitable registration allows a nonprofit to legally solicit donations in the state, as we covered in the presentation. And corporate registration, such as filings that are submitted to a state Secretary of State office, is required to do business generally. So if a nonprofit hires employees, leases property, or offers services in a particular state. And again, a couple of charity states do require that as a prerequisite to the charitable registration requirement. Second question is, have nonprofits been prosecuted for failing to register for charitable solicitation? The answer to that is yes, but enforcements typically will start with just a warning. So regulators will usually send an unregistered nonprofit a cease and desist letter first. If the nonprofit continues fundraising without registering, though, it may face fines, legal action, or the loss of fundraising rights in that state altogether. Next question is, can nonprofits claim ignorance of state fundraising laws to avoid penalties? Unfortunately not. However, states are usually lenient with nonprofits that voluntarily come forward to correct any past non-compliance issues. So organizations that proactively registered are definitely more unlikely to face any penalties. Next question is, if we only fundraise online and through social media, do we need to register in every state? So as I covered in the presentation, the answer to that is generally yes. Online fundraising and social media solicitations can potentially reach donors in all 40 states that regulate fundraising. So your nonprofit should generally either register or apply for exemption in those states. If you do not want to register in all 40 states, then you need to take that more selective approach and ensure you are not soliciting in states that have regulated fundraising if you're not registered there. The next question is, do you help organizations start a 501c3 nonprofit? The answer to that is yes, we do offer nonprofit formation services. You'll want to contact us to learn more about that. The next question is, do corporate sponsorships or foundation grants count as solicitation? The answer to that is generally yes. Requesting corporate sponsorships or partnerships is considered charitable solicitation and does require registration. Applying for foundations grants in most states is also regulated solicitation activity. One note there is that government grants are generally excluded from that requirement. The next question is, do nonprofits hosting virtual or hybrid fundraising events need to register? The answer to that is yes. Whether an event is in person, virtual, or hybrid, it is still considered charitable solicitation. So nonprofits must follow the same registration rules as with other forms of fundraising. So you'll definitely want to do your research if you're holding an event in a state to ensure that you're properly registered there first. Next question is, what are the compliance obligations for foreign nonprofits fundraising in the US? So a foreign nonprofit, meaning a nonprofit from another country, cannot solicit in the US directly. They must partner with a US registered nonprofit to raise funds legally. So typically what we see is the foreign organization will create a US-based Friends of nonprofit that gets incorporated, seeks their IRS determination, and then registers in all the states where the solicitation activity will take place. And then they can collect donations and um, provide them back to the nonprofit in another country. Next question is, can a U.S. nonprofit legally fundraise in foreign countries? So yes, but the compliance does vary. Compliance requirements vary by country. So similar to the US, most countries have their own fundraising registration requirements. So US nonprofits should definitely do their research and follow each country's laws before doing any fundraising internationally. Okay, that's going to conclude the question and answers for today. If you have additional questions or any questions specific to your nonprofit, please feel free to reach out to us. You can speak with one of our experts at no obligation and hopefully get a clear understanding of what your path to compliance should be. So I do appreciate you joining today's session. I hope it helped clarify your nonprofit's charitable registration obligations. And again, if you'd like personal guidance, please feel free to contact us. We'd be happy to help you manage and maintain your fundraising compliance. All right. So this concludes today's webinar. Thank you so much.